All right. This is going to be a hard one because that those two epigraphs or epilogues, um, really unbelievable. So, in the time that I was thinking about the end of the book in chapter 24, I had about an hour before I started the epigraphs, and I thought of just the idea of the unwitnessed and how fitting it is that Shadow Throne would also sort of be one of these unwitnessed. And often we get one impression of a person like Shadow Throne with the hounds. Like that's a frightening first impression of Shadow Throne and Cotillion from Gardens of the Moon. And who would have thought that they would have been a force for good? Same with like the jacket. Who would have thought we would have come to love the jacket? And even when Fiddler was speaking to the Crippled God, and the Crippled God was, I can't remember exactly which thing he was talking about, but even Fiddler was like, I didn't know about that. Like, well, you don't know about that, but I will remember. And Duaker, remember, he was having such a hard time chronicling everything in a way that gave it justice. And Fisher was going to help him. That's why I loved Kruppa, by the way, in Toll the Hounds. He was so good at helping things not go unnoticed. As the story would go on, he would jump in and be like, hey, reader, did you see what happened there? And even to the characters in Toll the Hounds, which I still think is the high mark of the series, especially Kruppa, he would think of what he would do for Crocus. Like, he would help them understand that things are happening within them that maybe even they are not witnessing themselves, even though they are at the center of it. So let's go into the two epilogues, which again just couldn't be better. And some of those things I expected would, or I was hoping would be a part of it, but we will get to those. And it's like Steven Erikson heard my gripes of things that I really, well, both my gripes and things that I really wanted to be there and I thought needed to be there, like Crocus and Apsalar and Whiskey Jack and Corlat. And he's like, here you go. I know you don't care about all the characters, but I know you care about these characters so much. So here you go, Dan. So just freaking awesome. This thing with the barrows. Corlat at the center. Holy smokes. This really this is really something special. 3 barrows for the fallen Imas, Jagat, Kachain Chamal, and the Kalansi. 2 smaller barrows or 1 smaller barrow with just 2 fallen Malazans, which ends up being Gessler and Stormy. And I just love Corlat. I loved coming out of Memories of Ice. You know, Tool and Talk I loved, but because of the relationship with Corlat and Whiskey Jack, even though it was quick, and they make note of it here again, like it was so quick. But it just was so strong, and it was maybe one of those things, you know, it was just a relationship that rang so true to me. Silchus is great here, and he respects the Malazans, which, great to see that. Then they have these stones, which is such a wonderful tradition. And they represent not just like love, but it's like our loyalty to one another, or my feeling for their feeling for that individual is in stone. not to be given away. It's the Tistandi. You don't see a lot of ritualistic sorts of things that they do, but this is like one of those traditions. Like, we will not forget. We will keep this stone with your name on it. And I was thinking, who would I have? Who would I have a stone for? There's certainly family, and there's some friends that would have earned a stone that, you know, no matter what, they have. I'll have their stone. Really is an amazing tradition that should, you know, like I could see people doing that and it being meaningful in real life. I'm sure there are people that do things similar to that. And it's just not to be surrendered. So she has one for Rake, of course. Everyone loves Anamanda Rake. Her brother, Orfantal, Spinnick. I love Spinnick, and of course Whiskey Jack. Three great things often come in threes in this book, in this series. These three Tistandi that obviously mean a lot to her. Her brother, and Spinnick, and Rake, who she just respects so much. And then Whiskey Jack, a fourth, who she barely knew. I mean, she knew well, but like it just sealed so quickly. Then she's going to maybe go get one for Jan Tovis, which I love that. And Nemander, which I really love that as well. Isn't that such a beautiful tradition? And it helps them remember. And even now, again, and this was something that I found so awesome and rang true. Even though they lived for so long, it's so deeply human to have doubt. And she's having this doubt over herself again, about Whiskey Jack. Not that she loves the guy, but it's like, how can a guy who everyone adores and is just this amazing man, like, why would he love me? Like, why would he, So there's the two barrows, or there's the one barrow for Gessler and Stormy. And it, Calith comes and says they bickered and lied, and in the time I knew them, they pretty much argued without surcease. Even in the middle of terrible battle, they bickered back and forth. And all the while, these two Malazans, they did all that needed to be done. So, like, they character-wise, they were flawed. But they did what needed to be done. Each and every time. Up there, they climbed through walls of fire. And remember, Stormy and Truth is one of them. But he's already gone. But I don't want to forget Truth either. Up there, they climbed through walls of fire, and at the moment, I realized that all those wild tales they told me were probably true. Stormy died defending the heart. Oh man, it's like choking me up. And Gessler died defending a dog, which now guards where he lies. Man, that is like... I grew up with a bunch of dogs and puppies, and, we lived out of town, and, like, it always killed me when we had to give away dogs, like, give away puppies. Like, I just... So, that is so... That rings so... It's just so great. The stone she's going to give up causes a commotion for the bridge burners. And like, she doesn't understand this. Like, is she stepping on toes? Like, she doesn't feel like she even deserves to be here. She's going to give up this stone for the barrel. And we've seen that, like, the end of Memories of Ice, the barrow to Ikovian. Like, is there anything more awesome than that? But she's going to give up this stone. And then they ask, is it his? If you give that up, it will destroy him. Meaning Whiskey Jack. I thought he left me. No, he hasn't. He only found love once, Corlat. And we're looking at the woman he chose. If you give up that stone, we'll cut you to pieces and leave your bones scattered across half this world. Corlat, he's waiting for you. And if he has to, he'll wait forever. That's one of those things where I don't know when I said it, maybe some, a couple hundred pages back, said, if I don't get anything, at least give me something with Corlat and Whiskey Jack to finish this, and I'll be, and it's like, here you go. Just what you asked for. You would have killed me for forsaking him. I am reminded of the man he was to have won such loyalty among his friends. Then Tavor goes to her and says, open it, and it's an empty box. They were Marines. Everything of value they've already left behind. Like, Steven Erikson, you freaking nailed it with this, by the way. In fact, Corlat of the Tistandi, if Gessler and Stormy could, they'd be the first ones to loot their own graves. We are here to see the barrow sealed. And then we see the Jagged standing afar off, paying respects to the fallen Imass, which never would have thought that would have happened. And never would have thought that I would have just fallen so in love with the Jagged. I want to hang out with these guys. Hood is peed on. They all die laughing. And the note that's why the Jagged choose to live alone. Then we get Bryce's group scene. With Ganos near Tavor, never too far from Tavor, and I didn't mention, I totally forgot to mention it in the last video, Ganos and Tavor's scene together. Really great, and now he's never too far from his sister. Tihor is on the way, see his brother and everything. Hates the sea, which is kind of funny. Bryce, because of Bug. Bryce doubted. He expresses his doubts that he had for Tavor. Then she says, "Forgive me for interrupting, Highness," because he's a prince. "The deeds that have won us this victory belong to every soul on this journey, and it has been rather a long journey. A sword's tip is nothing without the length of solid steel backing it. There have been many doubts to weather, but this is the weakness we all share." Which, again, goes to what this book is so about. That everyone is just doing their little part. And sometimes they do it great, and sometimes they falter. But, they all got us here. And obviously, some people did more than others, but, it's when you're building something, not everyone can do the main job. Sometimes you gotta just nail the taping, or nail the framing, or it's everyone does their thing and does their part, and when everyone does their part, then great things can happen. "All will be forgotten," she says. He says, "but a statue will be raised." She's not going to be forgotten. Maybe all the details and really the emotional weight behind what that meant will be forgotten, but you know, they'll remember as best they can. She asks if it'll be beautiful, and you know, Bryce says just loud enough for his girlfriend to hear. Yes, it will. Which, you know, now he's in it. Now he's in it. Again, I think I have come around to not needing everything contained. You know, like you want all the things to be tied up, but whatever. You know, I'm just salty. Don't take me too seriously. Where was I? We get a note of Korab's last stand, which is really great. The hero of Igatan, you know, one of the heroes, someone who chose to do the absolute right thing when, like, it was just chaos, like the fire, like he chose to stay behind. Which, what a risky thing to do when he could have left. Leoman, what a prick. I liked Leoman, but man, Korab is just... Korab's the best. He needs a statue too. A lot of these people need a statue. Looks like Limp has a broken leg again. I didn't quite catch that. Back to Corlat, and you know, this one may be the best scene in the series. So she's speaking to Nimander, and even now sees Tavor walking alone, and the Fiddler and and Whiskey Jack's old squad approach her. They send her up to the hill, or they say that hill will work, and he's going to do a song. This one is called "My Love Awaits," one of Fisher's, and maybe one called Anamandaris, Galan's Hope. Oh, one from Anamandaris, from Anamandarake. Fiddler's going to call him back one more time. And he will see her, but they're doing that for their love for Whiskey Jack. And then just maybe the most beautiful lines in the whole series, which did tear me up. So Steven, you did get me. Behind her, the strings drew a song into the night. Hold on. I think I wrote that down wrong because I wrote the notes, and I want to make sure I get it right. Behind her, behind her the strings drew a song into the night air. When she reached the road and saw her beloved standing on the hill before her, Corlat broke into a run. And that just made me start crying. I mean, not tears, because I'm still tough, but it did make me well up. That's the end of Epilogue 1. Epilogue 2. And it couldn't have been better, what we got for Whiskey Jack and Corlat. Could not have been better. Epilogue 2. Onos and like Tool and Heaton and the kids, and Heaton is she's been like healed, and that's got to mean internally as well. Like, geez, wow, like she went through so much. Udinese is there. Saren has a cranky baby, Troll's baby. I'm glad we at least got a note of that. Kalava and Onrak are there. Udinese says he says to his kid, "In the bright sun, I see your mother in that smile." Menendor, who maybe smiled once, but it wasn't like he didn't put the smile there. We go to Itgo Khan. See Cotillion, Shadow Throne, and the Hounds. And Shadow Throne says satisfied. Asks if he believes in hope, if he believes in faith. It's the affirmative for both those questions. Cotillion stops Shadow Throne from unleashing the Hounds to get vengeance, which, you know, even though characters are still flawed and like vengeful and awful, I mean, they can still do the right thing sometimes, but like probably not good to get vengeance by sending the Hounds and stuff quite yet. And then the thing I wanted, maybe I wanted the Whiskey Jack Corlat thing most, but the second thing I wanted most, and I figured it's got to be the last thing, or close to the last thing, Crocus and Apsalar. So thank you, Steve, for finishing where we started with Apsalar, almost finishing where we started. And he finds her at her own old house, tending the garden, and talks about a story and how he doesn't really remember the story, but he remembers how she looked when she told him that story originally. And he says, I think the sadness just went away, Apsalar. She says, I think you're right. So I think finally they are ready. Flaws and all, but at least maybe maturity-wise, they're ready to make this work, which you love to see that. Doesn't mean they're perfect. You know, when I got married in my 20s, and like I'm a way different person. You know, no one's perfect when they first get married or first get a relationship. There's maturity issues. There just are. Even if, you know, there's things that you have to get through, but if you have that commitment and maturity, which these two definitely needed to learn, I think you can, you know, you don't have to know everything, but having that, both two people ready to kind of be mature that way. That's why I love the relationships in this series, because it feels like someone who has gone through relationships, understands how, you know, how just petty it can be sometimes, understands how great it can be, how there can be insecurities within it and also wonderful things, but like really, really hits the nail on the head for, like, it's not just this puppy love the whole way through. Like I had puppy love dating, but when you get married or really commit into something, that's when you really learn how this works, and, you know, or you don't, and it like explodes. But that's where you really learn and experience a lot of the things that Steven Erikson threw in here. So one of the great things about stories is you can why it's so powerful, why I read it, is why fiction is so powerful is you can go through these relationship failures and things as if you are experiencing it, and you still have some of that emotional weight behind it, but you can learn some of those lessons without experiencing it yourself. And you know, Crocus and Apsalar, just I love that we get this here. I figured we would. And then we get the ending with Fiddler, who plays at Smiley's bar, which Smiley's podcast, who were the first ones to invite me on to a thing after I finished Memories of Ice. Really great. I would love to have them on to talk about what's next, but I didn't really catch the whole Smiley's connection with. Yeah, they were so fun to talk to, or Maura was. I only talked to her. But it would be great to talk to both of them. So we get an echo of Little Perrin talking to Whiskey Jack, sort of, with Fiddler and this boy, and he says, "You're not going to catch fish." Who said I wanted to catch fish? who said I wanted fish. And they talk about what's at the bottom of, what do you think's at the bottom? And he said, oh, it's a demon. He says, I'm not going to be like you, old man. I'm going to be a soldier when I grow up. I'm going to leave this place forever. A soldier fighting wars and getting rich and fighting and saving people and all that. Well, the world needs more. The world always needs more soldiers. He's not going to squash this kid's dreams. And, you know, Fiddler, think of what he did for the world. Him and others, but, like, think of what he did. This kid doesn't even know about it. Isn't that awesome? And that's why I loved the ending with Mappo. Like, geez. And he said, you know, this kid's like, well, you can't kill this demon. Nobody can kill it. And Fiddler says, never said anything about killing it. Just been a while since we last talked. Love that. And the thing with the weather vane, I didn't totally, I didn't get it. The very last thing, really have no idea what it means. If it's like hinting towards something, but it's like locked in its place with rust and it quivers like a thing in chains. I mean, like House of Chains and everything's been about chains, but I don't know if that's like pointing towards something or if it's just like a cute little way of ending with a phrase about chains. And then there's this last call to remember us. And we're done. So, thank you for sticking around for all this. It's been so fun. And the thing about Malazan is when you're getting near the end of when you're getting close to the climax of these books, you're like, I'm going to take a break after this because it's getting so heavy and you know, then you finish the last page and instantly you're like, what's next? What's next in the old Malazan world? I have Return of the Crimson Guard. I've done Knight of Knives, so I have that eventually. I don't think I'm going to go right into it. I have The God Is Not Willing, and I have Stone Wheel. Like, those are just ones I had, but I don't think any of those are the Carcanis ones, which I have an eye on. I'm going to just wait for a sec. For sure, I'm going to read something that's just like a standalone, maybe like a history book. I have a couple things I'd like to get through. Something very light and easy, but I am going to have some thoughts. You know, now my mind can swirl. Now I can think about the whole entirety of Malazan Book of the Fallen and have maybe some thoughts and things. I want to do some rankings, you know, even though they're arbitrary, they're kind of fun to do, as well as the character rankings and things like that. So, yeah. Really freaking cool. Really freaking cool. And, you know, I still, the thing about, like, I hate bananas. And if I go to a place that has a fruit salad, like for Christmas when all the family gets together and someone brings a fruit salad and there's like some banana in it, it's like I won't eat it because I can taste the banana. And they're like, well, it's just don't do the banana. Like, well, if there's a little bit of the banana, it just spoils it. And it's just unfortunate that near the end of, you know, the last couple books, I felt like some of the banana parts of the things I wasn't enjoying was kind of spoiling it. But then you get to, and a part of that was like, I don't like where it's heading. But then you actually get to the ending and you're like, oh, that was actually pretty freaking cool. And like it like retroactively kind of reminds you that like no, it was great. And you just were being a little baby. So, you know, eventually I'm going to reread it. I don't know if I'm going to go right into the side things right away, but eventually I'm going to reread it. And since I haven't done any videos for Gardens of the Moon and Dead House, I think eventually I'll do that too. It won't be like total reaction things, but it might be fun to do with the focus on, you know, a reread of that. That's be very interesting. So, and maybe have some people to talk to during it with. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, I'll talk to you guys on the next one. This has been so fun. And Steven Erikson did get a tear out of me. Maybe not one that fell, but he did get tears out of me. So I'll talk to you soon.